Hello friends, bienvenidos. My name is Jen, aka Jen Calo on social media, your local witchy friend and intuitive guide through the occult. As always, my lovely husband and co-host is David, aka Premier Pulls on social media.
Hi everyone. On today's Spotlight episode, Jen explains Miss Cleo.
Welcome to the show, grab a chair, make yourself at home. Jen's got stories to share, you'll never feel alone.
Oh man, I wanted to start this episode with an accent, but I think that would be very insensitive and would
Please don't
get
do
us
that.
canceled.
Yes, please.
But I have a strong suspicion that there's going to be some fake accents on today's episode. Not from me, but from our Spotlight.
Yeah, Miss Cleo was a little before my time, so I actually didn't know who she was.
Okay, yeah, we'll get into it. Before that, any housekeeping or anything we want to talk about?
No, just don't call me Miss Cleo. That is kind of insulting. That's how I found out who Miss Cleo was because in the very, very early days of my journey, I was practicing on people and I was pretty open about my journey. And one of my coworkers called me Miss Cleo. And I was like, who is that? And I was like, oh, that was a read.
Yeah, okay. Well, let me tell you a little bit about my experience knowing who Miss Cleo is.
Yeah, you knew who she was.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I did it. I think she's also a little before my time, so we're both kind of in the same type of boat. However, I feel, it's interesting because I feel like I'm about to age myself, but I guess it's just the times, essentially. Okay. When I was a kid, I used to watch Nickelodeon. I think like a lot of my cohort, my fellow millennials, Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. At a certain time, I think it was like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., Nickelodeon would switch over to Nick at Night. Now, when I was a kid, the Nick at Night shows would go way back. We're talking about like I Love Lucy, like shit in black and white. So it was things that were way, way before my time. As Nickelodeon has progressed, I had noticed, and I haven't seen Nickelodeon in years, but like some of the Nick at Night programs were shows that I was watching. So that those were like the oldies now, which has nothing to do with Miss Cleo necessarily, but I just wanted to point out how time progresses.
That is interesting.
Miss Cleo, I think, was hotter and by hot I mean like she was a hot commodity, more in like the 80s, early 90s. No. Okay, that's what my perception was. I'm just telling you my story for Miss Cleo. Mm-hmm. But I do remember seeing, I think, her infomercials. There was an African-American woman with a Jamaican accent saying, call in, and they had the
Call me now.
Call me now was like the catchphrase. So I do kind of remember seeing her infomercials, and that's how I knew her within the context of just the general zeitgeist. What was bigger for me growing up, and I think just with the years, I might conflict both of these. When cell phones first came out, there was a service for cell phones. It mostly was around ringtones. So there were these commercials that would come on and say like, call or text this number to get like today's hottest ringtones. And then right now everybody has their phone on vibrate, so ringtones don't really matter. But back then, that was a big fad, like specifically Sean Paul. Like Sean Paul had all his ringtones out, and it was just like an instrumental version of like those like popular songs. Well, within those text messages, you could also call, or you could also text and get like emojis or characters, and a substrate of that was fortunes. You could get horoscopes and fortunes. So you could text that number and get your horoscope for the day or get a fortune. And I would always equate that modality to like Miss Cleo, but I do think I'm getting them mixed in my head. I think Miss Cleo for sure came on before that modality, but I'm sure there was some overlap. So that is what I know of Miss Cleo.
What, side note, when you texted to get your fortune, would they charge you?
Yes. So they would charge you per text message. So with the ringtones, I remember one time, I think I got in trouble because they just add it to your bill essentially. So I didn't pay the bill. But there was the ringtones that I wanted, and I think I texted a couple of times and got like a few ringtones. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Because back in the day, it was never unlimited text messaging. There was like text messaging. They would charge you per text message, and obviously they would charge you for the ringtone. And they weren't I want to say they weren't cheap. I don't remember if they were 99 cents or $5. It was like one of those two.
But still.
But yeah, so they would charge you for like the data and services, and then they would also charge you for the actual product, the ringtone, which was like obviously, you know, you do 2 or 3 and if they're at $5 a piece, it would add up, you know.
So I don't know if I've ever told you this story. I don't know if I've told anyone this story, but I was a nerd and I really like to read.
You were a nerd or are still a nerd?
I guess I was more nerdy back
kidding.
then, but I guess I'm still a nerd. I would like to read everything. Like I read the dictionary, I read random encyclopedias. One day I was bored and I started reading the Yellow Book. We also didn't have cable, I think, and I didn't have a lot of friends. I think this
Or a
is
cell phone.
or a cell phone. So I think this is adding a lot of context. But I was reading the Yellow Pages, and yeah, I saw that you could call in and get your horoscope, and I called.
Oh, did you?
I called a lot. Not a lot, like because it was
more
once
than
a day. More than once. I never got in trouble.
And they were charging?
I don't know, because I didn't pay the phone bill. But my parents were meticulous. I feel like they would have whooped my ass if I accrued charges. But yeah, I would call, and it was this lady, and she would say...
So it wasn't pre-recorded?
It was pre-recorded.
Oh, it was pre-recorded.
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. I loved, Walter Mercado growing up, like, seeing him briefly on Univision, because, like, he was the only time it was okay to talk about the occult. Yeah. But my love for astrology started when I was, and fortune-telling, period, from when I was really young, and yeah, I would, like, sneakily call.
You know what? This is me utilizing contextual clues, and this is a complete hypothesis. You know what I think it might have been? Back in the day, if you wanted to do long distance calling, you had to get the phone cards, or I think they would charge you. And I know your mom has family in Mexico, and so does your dad. So I wonder if they just assumed it was like long distance charges.
But it was an 800 number, and
correct, but like they're just charges, right? And even calling collect was like 1-800-CALL-COLLECT. God, the 90s were such a trip. But I almost wonder if like they just saw the charges and just didn't read it carefully and assumed it was just like long distance calls.
Oh,
right.
I could see that,
because I don't think, I mean, it might have said the name, but like you get the bill, and like I know your mom likes to, I was gonna say likes to yap, but she likes to talk, and I know your dad has a lot of family in Mexico.
That's also true.
And I'm sure like your dad like didn't really care, like he's like, I gotta make these calls anyways, and so I wonder if that's what if it got hidden within that.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. I got away with it. Awesome. That's cool.
All right. Let's talk about the infamous and it is infamous, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Infamous Miss Cleo.
So Miss Cleo was all the rage from 1997 to the early 2000s.
Can I stop you really quick before we get into it? Do you think I'm going to be more hating on Miss Cleo or Edgar Allan Poe? Because I was on my fucking shit with Edgar Allan Poe.
I think you're gonna hate more on Edgar Allan Poe than Miss Cleo.
Okay, sorry. Okay, go ahead. Start over. My bad.
Yeah, so she was all the rage from 1997 to the early 2000s.
97?
But, I mean, you were 7 years old, so I could see how you were maybe a little young for that.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was the 80s, so I was completely off. Okay. 97 to, you said early 2000s? Like 2008 or 2010?
Like 2002, 2003.
Oh, early. So it was only like 4 or 5 years. Okay, awesome.
Quick rise and fall. So if you don't know who she is, pause this to type on TikTok or YouTube like Miss Cleo commercials, and then come back. But yeah, you can find her. It's so infamous. But yes, she was a black woman with a Jamaican accent who would take phone calls and do tarot live.
Yes.
And her catchphrase was "Call me now," and then there was like an 800 number, and she would say things like "Call me now." Call me now for your free reading. Call me now. First 3 minutes are free. And it would be $4.99 a minute after. In the fucking 90s, 2000s. To me, $5 a minute even now is highway robbery.
5 minutes. Okay, sorry. I think I missed the price. $5 a minute?
Un pinche minuto. 1 fucking minute. Yeah.
Wow.
$5 a minute. Other psychics would be like $3.99, but obviously Miss Cleo, she was $1 more, $4.99. She claimed to be a voodoo priestess and that she could speak to spirits. But yeah, what as a tarot reader, as an astrologer, what the fuck can you do in 3 minutes? Like in 3 minutes,
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, how's it going? What's your main concern that you want to address today?
Can I be devil's advocate?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes, that's ludicrous, right? You really can't get into the weeds. Is this a different version of a fortune cookie being read to you, or a horoscope scroll that you would get? Like in 3 minutes, somebody could say, "What's your sign? This is what the horoscope says for you
but
today."
this is tarot.
Oh, it's tarot.
You have to pull
Sorry.
cards.
Okay, my bad. I didn't catch that.
She did ask, like, when were you born? And then she would say, like, oh, you're a Scorpio or you're a Capricorn.
Mm-hmm.
So and I mean, I do the same shit too. I like to merge both modalities, but, like, she didn't go as deep as I do. Her main thing was tarot.
Tarot. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So, because there are some astrology associations in the tarot deck, like if you have a young woman that is a fire sign, she's going to be like the Queen of Wands, for example.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why she did it. But
regardless, it's not a good look.
regardless, highway fucking robbery.
Yeah.
Like $5 a minute. That's crazy. Anyway, this is all public record. You can find all of this online.
Yeah.
So
you can find this in her infomercials.
Yeah. But she went by Miss Cleo, her stage name, but her legal name was Yuri Del Harris, and she was born in 1962.
Okay.
And she claimed to have been brought from Jamaica by her birth mom and given up for adoption to another Jamaican family that had 8 or 9 brothers. So she grew up with a bunch of boys.
In the States, though.
In the States.
Yeah. And sorry, I think I missed it. Where is she from?
So we'll get into like her actual origins later, but her story, and she claimed till she died to be from Jamaica. Her mom gave her up to adoption to another Jamaican family that supposedly adopted a lot of Jamaican kids.
So like Shaggy.
I guess so.
Shaggy does not have that accent, so that's why. It's like pretty well known that he doesn't have the like Jamaican accent.
Okay.
Sean Paul does. This is my second reference to Sean Paul. Sean Paul does. Shaggy does not.
Okay. She grew up in LA, where this adoptive family adopted her, according to her. She went to a Catholic all-girls school in Alhambra, California, which is a part of LA.
Oh yeah, we've driven by it. May have even gone to Alhambra.
I spent a lot of time in Alhambra.
I was gonna say that sounds super familiar.
Yeah. Well, my longer term ex before you was there.
Whoa. You're not gonna call him now, right?
Call him now. No, he hates me. It's okay. I was not good to him. Okay. Anyway, so the early.
Oh, I love our podcast.
The earliest folks who can attest to knowing Miss Cleo, like on the record, because there's no one from her childhood that like they could find from all the documentaries and articles I could peruse.
You know, that's interesting because she was prolific in the sense that it was a flash in the pan, but like this wasn't in the early 1900s. I mean, 1997 to 2002, like that's not that crazy. You know, you can find things like 2001. The hit single that year was like, I think it was a Britney Spears song. Couldn't remember if it was "Hit Me Baby One More Time" or "Oops, I Did It Again." But like you think of that, you know, like that's the exact same time period, and like.
But people, I mean, maybe MySpace was barely rolling out, but like people weren't as hyper connected as now, you know.
That's
to where if you wanted to speak on someone, it's super easy to just.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But okay, keep going.
So yeah, the earliest folks that could attest and were willing to speak on the record about knowing her back in the day were from when she was a younger adult and she relocated to Seattle, Washington, and she did a lot of work performing arts at the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute.
So late teenage, early 20s, I'm assuming?
I don't know if it was 20s, 30s, but like this is as far back as we could go. She wrote and directed plays. Like one day she just randomly rolled into town. She went to the performing arts studio and she approached some of the folks that were in charge and were like, what do I have to do to put on a play and direct a play? And they were like, well, you have to front all the costs, but like if you want to,
like
we'll
our space
support
is open
you.
to you.
Yeah. And she was like, all right. So she hired actors. She agreed to front the cost of her production. She wrote plays. but the staff claimed that they never got paid from her. So
Okay, she's giving a little bit of grifter vibes. And a grifter, somebody who kind of goes town to town and has all these elaborate plans. Really good talking social skills, and I'm sure we're going to get into that when we talk about her astrology. But it's giving grifter. Yeah.
yeah, so they knew her as Yuri, or her legal name. They did not know her as Miss Cleo, and they claim that at the time of knowing her,
No accent.
No
Yeah,
accent.
of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. However, this is very similar to Walter, very similar to Elvira. She wrote a play called For Women Only, and there was a character similar to Miss Cleo. So this is the budding of the archetype of Miss
Yeah.
Cleo. There was a Jamaican woman in this play that, like, you know, was a voodoo priestess.
This archetype across all our spotlights is something that this is like the third one we've had like this, where it's like they're working on a separate project and they have like a character. You know, that's really interesting. I'd love to dive into, do we think it's just a personality type for people who are in the spotlight, like that creative brain, or there's some coincidence or through line going through that type of archetype? What do you think?
Yeah, we could talk about it. I'm going to expand on it a little bit more, but I think that in the case of Elvira
Because she did
and
Vampira.
Walter, she didn't do Vampira.
Or she, like, it, yeah.
So
She had her Valley Girl thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about this.
Okay.
So she moved to after that. She moved to Florida in 1997, and she met the founders of the Psychic Readers Network, which was a 1-800 number people could call. The dudes, the white men that started this, because this is very important later. The white guys that started this, they lived in Florida.
Okay, so she went from California to Washington State, right?
To Florida.
To Florida. Okay, so coast to coast.
And they hired actors, and the quality of their infomercials were super duper cheesy. They were not great, and she was basically like a consultant, because she was very spiritual in her life, and she did have knowledge of tarot that she did like for herself, for
But she
her
was more
friends.
of a performer.
But she was more of a performer.
No, sorry, I think I missed this, but what was the transaction from Washington to Florida? They hired her for what?
Oh no, it's just coincidental.
Oh, okay.
She just felt like it. I don't know what brought her to Florida, but I
Okay.
think she just felt like it.
I see.
They didn't explain like the why, but she seems to be semi-nomadic in her younger years.
And then she was hired as a consultant for these two gentlemen.
I mean, she was like a lower level reader,
Yeah.
but because she had a lot of like, she was bold enough to give criticism and be like, your shit's cheesy, like
Yeah.
fix it. And they were like, okay, how should we fix it?
So they
then,
hired her as a consultant. Oh,
so then they
okay.
bumped her up to consultant, and then they had a white woman that was like the main tarot reader actress, but she was just really bad because she didn't really know tarot like that,
Yeah.
and she just wasn't like a performer.
Yeah.
Again, she has a performing background.
Yes.
She knows how to perform, but she also knows tarot because she uses it in her personal life. Like two things to be true at
Got
once.
it. Okay, so this was a conglomerate that had different talents, right? Tarot readers, I'm assuming.
The Psychic Readers Network
Psychic
had many psychics.
Got
You can't
it.
just have one.
Okay.
But you do have one that you spotlight, right? In all your
Yeah,
infomercials.
yeah.
So eventually they said, okay, let's axe this white lady that can't like take direction, and let's try Miss Cleo.
Mm-hmm.
And they told her, they were like, we want you to be Miss Cleo. We want to create this character. Like, we want you to be on the infomercials. So then she thought back to like, well, I had Miss
This
Cleo,
character,
this character. Okay, so it's very similar to Walter, right? Like, Walter was an actor, a performer, but he was very spiritual on his own. And they were like, hey, this person called in sick. Can you do this thing?
Yeah.
With Elvira, she had her, or Cassandra, like her legal name, she had her improv group where she kind of created this like campy bimbo character, but they were like, we want you to play like a modern version of Vampira. So she merged those. So now we have like this merging of like, she had Miss Cleo from this early play she directed in her present circumstance.
I see.
Coming out.
Yeah, no, interesting. Yeah, that duality. I think it's a personality type, right? I think to a lesser extent, you and I did something similar in creating this podcast of the character of like Jen Kahlo. Jen Kahlo is, it's not like a made up character, like that is who you are, but there's Genesis and then there's Jen. And I think as we progress within our journey, you need to bring in authenticity to a character, but you also need to be able to disassociate, because I think it can be dangerous and become all encompassing. But what's nice about our partnership is we took the best of both worlds, right? Like astrology, spirituality has always been your thing, and I've loved videography, production, and I don't say it's exactly like we did what like these spotlight characters did, but that's kind of what we did, right? Would you see the parallels?
Yeah, the only thing is that I don't think I ever envisioned Jen Kahlo, like there was no theatrics behind it, where it's like, you know, Walter was pulling from a character.
If by next episode you start speaking in a Jamaican accent, I'm gonna die laughing.
Hell no, I don't want to get canceled. And also I wouldn't know how to do an accent, but I don't think I've had I was more forced to birthing Jen Kahlo, because I was like, I need that separation, because Genesis wouldn't like to communicate like this, and I found it was really messing with my ability to read and do the podcast, because Genesis has certain things and like ways about her, like very like diplomatic, just wanting more to listen than to speak. And it's like, okay, almost like a drag persona. Like a lot of drag artists are actually very shy or humble as themselves, but it's like you can't be humble on stage, right? Like you need to force these parts of you out. So what are you going to call this concentrated mix of yourself? That's how I came up with Jen Kahlo.
No, for sure. So the through line on this, I think, is just like a personality type, right? Yeah.
But I mean, with Walter, I don't think we could talk about it, but I guess Elvira is the most innocent one of all, because she wasn't like accidentally
subjugated to in the spotlight. Okay, so Miss Cleo creates this character,
and her character was so charismatic. Within like 2 months, she was basically famous.
And I'm assuming, because a lot of these are not national syndicates, they're regional, local syndicates. There's it's very interesting. I love going when we're on vacation or out of like the 209 area and we're in a hotel. I love turning on the local news, because you get to see like the local ads and you get to get a temperature for what the community is like locally.
That's very true.
And so I'm assuming, I could be wrong, but I doubt that this psychics group was a nationally syndicated at first. It might have been a regional, or did they like off the rip become...
They bought nighttime infomercial spaces. So like nighttime Comedy Central, nighttime BET, nighttime whatever. Like now we have more 24-hour programming, but back in the day, like at night,
it's prime time. There's like late night prime time.
But I'm talking like 2-3 in the morning type of stuff. And then obviously as they got more money, it was more like prime time. But people would be watching like Nick at Night, like BET, Comedy Central after hours, and like these types of infomercials would come up. She was so charismatic. She became pretty much famous after 2 months. Like the Psychic Readers Network got their highest volume of calls.
Yeah, because of her.
Yeah, because again, she would end everything with like, call me now. But she's saying, call me, Miss Cleo, but she can't take the world's calls. So this is where some of the like legal troubles, trial and tribulations, and where a lot of people got hurt, because she was like, call me Miss Cleo, me will talk to you. And honestly, it's one of the like rise and falls of a lot of people, which is like contract law and a lot of like sort of business violations. It's not so much like their ethics, but a lot of business stuff that happens. So we can talk about Miss Cleo's trials and tribulations right after this break. Today's episode is brought to you by us, Kythera Collective. If you've been vibing with the energy of the show, then you're going to love the Kythera Club over on Patreon. It's a space that I built for the cosmic, the curious, and the slightly chaotic. You know who you are. with 3 delicious tiers to choose from. We start with the chocolate level at $4 a month, which gains you access to weekly horoscopes and the exclusive Unhinged podcast, where I say things that don't make it to this main feed. It's sweet, it's spicy, and it's just for you. Next, we have the café level at $7 a month. This is where things really start to get cooking. You'll receive access to exclusive workshops, monthly virtual hangouts, and a private Discord community where you can chat directly with me and receive exclusive behind the scenes updates. It's magical, cozy, and a little unhinged in the best way. Finally, we have the tequila level. This is the VIP lounge. At $25 a month, you'll receive everything from the previous tiers, plus a personal 15-minute one-on-one session with myself or David each month, and discounts if you want to extend the session. It's a whole vibe and a powerful way to receive personalized guidance. So if you've been laughing along with us, crying or rage screaming in agreement, come hang out with us at the Kythera Club. Head over to patreon.com/JenCalo and choose your tier. If you want to sponsor an episode and advertise with us, go to our website, www.jencalo.com. All right, now back to the show. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. Right before the break, we were talking about just the tribulation of basically contract work over the airs of like Call Me Now and talking about how, when you called in, you didn't necessarily get Miss Cleo. Something that is interesting is, I don't know if it's cyclical or it just happens to be like that, but with the progression of the internet, progression of self-production, like what we're doing, you have your call outs, which is like subscribe to my channel, follow us on Instagram. And that is kind of the connection that you make with the creator that you're following or listening to. That is a little more direct. And the big difference of like today is you can get into those people's DMs, right? If you as a listener of Jen Explains have something to say, we're going to hear about it. Whereas back then it was all, I don't want to say smoke and mirrors, but there was layers to it.
Yeah.
Here's what I find really interesting. We're coming again. I don't know if it's full cycle. I'd be really interesting to get your take on this. And we have situations with like OnlyFans now, right? Where there are content creators who will farm out their interactions. So let's say there's a content creator, you subscribe to that content creator, and then you think you're speaking directly to them. And that content creator has writers for them or ghostwriters that are interacting directly with the clients. And then their ghostwriters will tell them like, hey, this person said this. Can you send them a picture or a content of this request? Interesting how it comes full circle, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that parallel of like what Miss Cleo and now with like content creation and the OnlyFans thing?
I mean, eventually, if you do get really big, your DMs might be more muted. Like, I'm sure everyone is trying to slide into Taylor Swift's DMs. You know what I mean? But
guilty. No, I'm just kidding.
But for content creators that do have that, like, call me now or like, I will respond to you. Yeah. They have to get assistance. Yeah. Because
the big ones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of OnlyFans sort of like selling features, and we have friends that have or currently do OnlyFans, so this is how we know all of this, is some of the selling points is like you can speak and flirt with the creator directly.
Yeah. You have access.
You have access to them, and access is a big selling point. So because of that, like it'll look like you're talking to them, but they have an assistant or like they farm it out, because they don't want to deal with it. They just want to post the pictures and be done.
Yes.
But they have to have that selling point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was a drag queen on RuPaul's Drag Race that was like, yeah, I'm a ghostwriter for an OnlyFans content creator. They think they're talking to a hot blonde. Well, they're right. But like it's him, obviously, and they're expecting a chick. But yeah.
Now take it and further level as we progress. Now we have artificial intelligence. So what's wild is the thought that, then this is what's interesting, right? We have the issue back in Miss Cleo's day where people were upset they weren't talking directly to Miss Cleo, but at least they were talking to a person.
Yeah.
Now we've come full circle where people are going to get upset that not only are they not talking to the content creator or the person that they think they're talking to, but they're not even talking to a person.
They're talking to a bot.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so that was a little tangent, but I think it's very appropriate for this because looking back, this is kind of how that started, right?
Yeah, well, Miss Cleo had a very quick rise and fall because the Psychic Readers Network came into trouble for a lot of
I'm assuming legal trouble?
Yes.
Yeah.
They were, hit with lawsuits from many different states for deceptive practices. Yeah. So call me. People were expecting Miss Cleo. We already talked about that. Not only that, but like when the Psychic Readers Network phone operators would answer, they would immediately ask like for a name and an address, and you couldn't proceed unless you gave that. So they would send a lot of people mail. So currently, like the current statute for like getting in trouble with all of that is like you can't add people to an email marketing list without their consent, right?
Interesting.
So they would kind of do that, but like with snail mail.
Yeah.
And so they would sign them up to get mail, and they never really opted in, or like by providing their address, they didn't realize that's what they were opting into.
Implicit consent, but not really. Okay, I have a question. It's a two-part question. The first one, were there people who could get through and talk to Miss Cleo? No, so nobody ever got to talk to her directly.
And so what they would train the phone operators...
Not the accent.
No. What they would train people to do was to, if someone like... So they would pick up the phone and people would be like, Miss Cleo? And then this person would be like, no, sorry, Miss Cleo's not available, but I can help you because I'm also a tarot reader. But if people were really pissed and they're like, no, I want to talk to Cleo, then they'd be like, okay, 1 second, Miss Cleo. Like they would literally act like they're looking, and they're like, I'm sorry, she's out to lunch.
Yeah.
So you can wait for her or you can talk to me.
And all while still getting charged. Okay. I don't know if this is a Mandela effect or I just don't remember it correctly. I remember in the infomercials there would be clips of her like talking to people or doing the readings.
Well, yes, but she wouldn't work on like the off hours. Like, yes, she would like answer certain calls. It's like calling into a radio station. Like they're gonna pick and choose who gets through, right?
So she had a show?
Yes.
Oh, okay. We haven't talked about the show.
Well, the show is the infomercial. Like, I don't know. I don't fully understand how they would do this, but somehow they would like pick and choose people.
But it wasn't live. Because an infomercial is just like the 30-second where you would see the like, call now. And then I do remember specifically there was like calls. And she would talk to people.
Well, I'm sure, like, people are calling the Psychic Readers Network 24/7. It's like a nation, worldwide thing.
Yeah, but you're saying she never actually spoke to somebody. So even if they took samples of that, like...
So I'm sure they had their recording hours, and then there would be lucky people that called just at the right time.
And did get to speak to her live.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that was my question. Okay.
But she didn't work outside of that, from my understanding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I get that. So... there would be people...
She wouldn't, like, just have times dedicated to answering the
Absolutely.
hotline.
Got it. Okay, but there would be people who would actually get to talk to her, and those were the ones who went online.
If they got lucky enough that they happened to be recording at that time. But she wouldn't just, like...
No, I get
take hotline.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, cool. Okay, so people were pissed. They were still getting charged.
And then sometimes, like, kids would call. And they would get charged this outrageous fee.
And you can't consent to that as yeah.
And then most readers, they would get paid 12 to 24 cents a minute. Where's the other $4.80 going?
That's insane.
To these two bros. I was going to say tech bros, but like Psychic Reader Network bros.
Yeah.
It would go to the top, right?
Yeah.
And they were not trained. They were just given a script, and their goal was to keep them on the phone for as long as possible. So they didn't train them on tarot. They didn't train them on astrology. They gave them a bullshit script, and it would be so long-winded because, again, they're getting charged by the minute.
Okay, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Absolutely. Like, completely wrong. How much would the readers get paid?
12 to 24 cents a minute, depending on how good they were.
Okay, 24 cents a minute. Let's round up to 25, best case scenario. 97, the national minimum wage was like $4 or $5. So if you had a good reader, in 60 minutes, which is, 60 divided by, or whatever, they could be making a little over minimum wage, right?
I guess maybe,
Yeah.
but it's still like unethical when they're making that much money for the top.
Correct. And again, I'm not.
That happens nowadays.
Yeah, I'm not justifying that, but it's like, you know, it wasn't backbreaking work.
But it was like barely acceptable.
Yeah.
Anyway, and they knew there was a saying, money or honey. Mm-hmm. And that's honestly so true.
Yeah.
Like, that's what people care most about, love and money.
Yeah.
However, the state of Florida began a lawsuit, and other states had already sued the Psychic Readers Network, but the state of Florida was different because A, Miss Cleo lived in Florida, and B, they decided to include her as a defendant in the lawsuit because some people, like, I don't know how this happened, but they didn't pay the charges, maybe they contested them, I don't know. And they would get a collections letter from the Psychic Readers Network, and it had Miss Cleo's signature on it.
Oh.
Yeah, so because of that, because the letters, it's a legally... It's
binding document.
Yeah, so they included her in the lawsuit to make an example out of her, basically. However, later, like during the investigation, all of that, they found out that it wasn't her signature. These bros forged it.
Got it.
So then, and she didn't know about like all of the deceptive practices. I mean, maybe she kind of knew.
I was gonna say, like, I don't think she comes clean out of this.
No, there are definitely things where it's like, girl, you know that if you say call me now, you're not gonna answer.
Yeah.
But I don't think she realized like how much money they were actually making. I mean, I don't know.
I think. I mean, she wasn't a dumb woman by any means, right?
But she wasn't part of management. She was more the face.
Yeah. Obviously, we're not, unless we talk to her directly, and at this point, she's dead, right? Yeah. We need a medium. But she was fucking popular. Like, you don't, if she never blew up, I could see that being, swept under the rug. But she was big. She was prolific, and for us to say, well, how much did she know? I feel like she knew quite a bit, and I'm assuming she used the Jamaican accent to bump up the like mysticism, and then she had a whole character. So like, I don't want to say it's deceptive because there's people who practice, but like she knew she had to engage the public, and it was a wide casting net. So she had to play up stereotypes. She obviously went with the Jamaican accent. Sure, she did tarot, but it wasn't like she was a prolific astrologer or tarot reader. It was something that she practiced, but she's just like, how can I make the most out of it, right? I think it's kind of like if we put you in a costume right now and you told our listeners, like, listen, call me, schedule something, I got the answers for you. And then I was your manager, and then, let's say there was a falling out, people were like not happy, and then you turn around and say like, well, I didn't know that was happening. You know what I mean? I think it's kind of like that.
Well, something tragic and similar to Walter, she did not get paid well, and in fact at some point did not have a right to her own like name and likeness. So there's that like tragedy there.
That's true.
Similar with Walter, I think Walter was also with the Psychic Readers Network or some other similar network.
Well, maybe
like
because I know
where Walter was like, also call me now.
Yeah.
And also this was the first case to show just because you say for entertainment only, that's not enough to save you. It's like if you light a movie theater on fire and you're like, this is for entertainment only, like that's not gonna save you from being completely fucking reckless.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, they were like, oh, they thought for entertainment only was a get out of jail free card, and it's not.
Do you think both things can be true at once? She was a victim, but she was also a perpetrator.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course, yeah. And during the lawsuit, they subpoenaed her birth records. And so you can find it online because it's a court document. It's public. It wasn't under seal. And it showed that she was born in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. So not Jamaica.
So then after that, her lawyer claimed that the Jamaican accent is because, yes, she was born in Los Angeles, but she was surrounded by a Jamaican community and eventually adopted into a large Jamaican family because she had like 8 or 9 siblings and they all had Jamaican accents. However, I do call bullshit there because something that Dax Shepard said to summarize this concept is like, your accent comes from your peers, not from your parents.
Yeah, that's true.
Because my parents have an accent. Yeah. I don't have the same accent as them. Yeah. Your mom has an accent. You don't have the same accent. An American family could go live in the UK and have a kid, and just because the family speaks American English, the kid is still gonna have a British
Well, they're
accent.
showing that now with like kids who watch Miss Peppa, Peppa Pig.
Miss Peppa.
My gosh, kids who watch Peppa Pig will like start speaking in British accents, and parents are like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, like they'll say petrol, and they're like, "Huh?" Yeah.
Aluminium.
Yeah.
Okay. So grifter, charlatan,
And the Psychic Readers Network billed $1 billion during the time they were open.
How much do you think they got paid of that?
Half of it.
Okay, so
$500 million.
So half the people didn't pay their bill.
But then during the lawsuit, they basically like forgave the other outstanding $500 million.
Okay.
Well, not like they chose to forgive; they were forced to.
Interesting. All right. Well, now let's get into her personal astrology and life and all that.
Yeah. So in her later years, she was a recluse for a few years. Just after like
I don't blame her.
all of that happening, she was ashamed.
So she did have remorse.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Some people don't.
People in her personal life claim that she was very spiritual and gifted, and they still visited her. And they said that she would have like different personalities come out. Like when Cleo was tired, there was another personality that would take over, and then a third personality that would take over. So she had a lot of trauma in her life. I mean, she didn't talk about it, but like people could tell. So maybe it was like, I don't want to diagnose her, but like, you know, some people have fragmented different alters that come out due to trauma. She also came out as a lesbian later in life.
Interesting. Another parallel.
Yeah, she went to an all Catholic girls' school, so that kind of makes sense. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that I think about it, Cassandra Peters, Walter, and Miss Cleo.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Who else have we done? Edgar Allan Poe?
Yeah, I don't know about him.
We don't know about him.
She did unfortunately die of cancer in 2016, and many people like did impressions of her, and her legacy lives on as a very charismatic person. But
And parodied. Again, a lot like Walter Mercado.
and you know, during her like retired years outside of being Miss Cleo, like she still did speak in a Jamaican accent in her personal life. I think she just couldn't shake it.
Yeah.
And she did a lot of activism work for LGBTQ rights before
good.
like the Marriage Equality Act of what was it, 2015 passed. But in terms of her astrology, yeah, because her birth record was subpoenaed, we have like an exact date.
August
and time.
12th.
August 12th,
Hey.
1962 at 8:54 a.m. in Los Angeles.
I wonder where in LA.
Oh, they have it. LA General County Hospital.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's like primo.
Yeah. This is a AA rating.
This is like perfect, yeah. Leo Sun, Capricorn Moon, Virgo Rising. So we see her Leo Sun in her 11th house of friends and networks. So that's putting a spotlight and giving her that charisma to attract a huge network of people.
As a fellow Leo, I get it.
Yeah. She did have a Mars in Gemini near her midheaven or point of notoriety. So that showed that she got famous off of being loud, being in media, like speaking and communicating. And then Neptune in her second house of finances. Neptune is a planet of illusion, sometimes disillusion, was also making an aspect to Jupiter and Chiron. Jupiter, planet of abundance. Chiron is like a wounded healer or like a trauma in your life, which showed her getting hurt and screwed over financially. So we have this like big famous person, but she didn't like profit off of it. And in fact, it kind of backfired and hurt her. However, she has Venus in the first house, Venus of love, art, being benevolent, caring. So she did at some point have a genuine drive to want to help people.
I think Miss Cleo, it sounds like she's the archetype for the path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Literally about to say that.
Yeah.
There were definitely things that are not excusable or moral, but ultimately I think it started off with good intentions.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I don't know. It's this episode has so much of like the growth. Like I followed all these trends growing up, so it's really interesting seeing the cycles and seeing like how we engage with things. But at the end of the day, human nature will always prevail, right? Greed, deception, just doesn't matter where we are in the,
We all have our
in the
flaws.
timeline. Like, humans are just humans at the end of the day. Awesome episode. I am the one who originally suggested this, and I learned a lot. So I thought this was actually a really great spotlight.
So who do you dislike more?
Edgar Allan Poe. Absolutely,
figured.
Edgar Allan Poe, yeah. But great, there is some housekeeping to go over, but overall, I think this was an amazing spotlight episode, and I hope y'all learned a lot too.
Yeah. See me now at these events, September 20th. There's a witches market hosted by Peculiar Charm. It's the first witches market in Merced, at least that I know of, like to this magnitude. That's going to be like actually outside and stuff. September 20th from 6 to 9 off of K and 18th in Merced. I'm going to be doing astrology only. There will be other offerings, like there's going to be someone doing tarot, limpias, etc. So a lot of cool witchy stuff, and then of course like witchy physical things like gifts. And then September 27th, I'll be doing a mirror workshop with Luna. So it's a glamour magic workshop where you can create your own portal to remind yourself of your beauty and strength whenever you need it.
Yeah, you are busy in September.
Yeah.
All right, well, that concludes our Miss Cleo episode. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah. If you like this episode, please rate it 5 stars wherever you're listening from and share it with a friend who would love to learn more about Miss Cleo. All right, everyone. Remember, the magic within you makes the world a more beautiful place. Blessed be, and signing off. Bye.